Well, good morning, everybody. Well, I guess it might not be morning where you are, but it's morning when I'm recording this. And welcome to our weekly rare breed feature. Okay, Kerry cattle, Ireland's ancient black dairy breed. And we're going to do this with Kerry Keely the Kerry cow and me, Miss Brie. So if you don't know me, I'm Miss Brie, educator, farmer, illustrator, singer, proud grammar nerd, and welcome to the farm school. So let's move on. Here's the story, okay? In the rolling green hills of southwestern Ireland, long before industrial dairies and towering milk tanks, small black cows grazed quietly against the Atlantic winds. They were not the largest cattle, they were not the flashiest cattle, but they were steady, ancient, enduring. Among them stands Keely, sleek, black-coated, with gentle eyes and elegant horns. She says, "We've been here a long time, longer than most people realize." Kerry cattle are an indigenous Irish dairy breed. Indigenous means native to that country. They have ancient Celtic roots, and they're known for their hardiness and milk quality. Kerry cattle trace their ancestry back to the ancient Celtic shorthorn, cattle that grazed Ireland even during the time of Julius Caesar. Did you know that? Yeah, it's a long time. For centuries, they developed in the rugged landscapes of County Kerry in southwestern Ireland. Windswept pastures shaped them. Thin soils strengthened them. They were not bred for extravagance, they were shaped by survival. Okay, so they were named for County Kerry, their historic homeland, and they're one of Ireland's oldest surviving breeds. Keely says the land made us what we are. We learned to thrive where others could not. So before the 1600s, Kerry cattle were among the most common breeds in Ireland. Small family farms depended on them for milk, butter, cheese, even meat, everything. They were the backbone of a family farm. They required little and they gave much. They gave a ton, considering how big they are. In cottages with thatched roofs and peat fires burning, it was often Kerry milk that filled wooden pails. They were so valuable, they were one of the family almost at that point. They were the people's cow. But the 1800s brought change. 19th century, which is the 1800s, introduced larger dairy breeds. Agricultural modernization, which means kind of new agricultural methods coming in, demanded higher volume production. Crossbreeding increased. Kerry cattle in North America. So here's something that's interesting is the cattle from Ireland actually ended up in the US. So we're going to talk about that next. So in 1818, Kerry cattle made their way across the Atlantic Ocean to Pennsylvania. But in a land favoring larger, faster producing breeds, they never became widely popular. They were often overshadowed by larger dairy breeds. They remain small in number, but they're still there, quiet survivors in a loud agricultural world. So you got to remember, sometimes small numbers still mean strong roots. And beginning in the 1960s, breeders recognized the danger of losing this ancient breed. Cattle and semen were re-imported to strengthen bloodlines in North America. Today, the breed remains globally rare and it's critically endangered. But dedicated breeders do work closely with the Kerry Cattle Society in Ireland to protect its future. Places like the Livestock Conservancy, the Rare Breeds Survival Trust, all of these places are built to preserve breeds like the Kerry cattle. Okay? So if you're interested in learning more about this or in helping, look up the Livestock Conservancy. Look up, the Rare Breed Survival Trust if you're in Britain. There's an amazing amount of information out there. And Keeley wants you to know that they may be rare, but rare does not mean they're weak. So let's talk about their physical characteristics, okay? What makes them stand out? Well, Kerry cattle are solid black. They're sleek, refined. Their bodies are fine-boned and lean. Cows are typically around 800 pounds, while bulls average around 1,000. To put this in perspective, a Holstein cow, which is the average, kind of 90% of the dairy cows in America are Holsteins, they're about double that size. So, these are smaller than most dairy breeds, but they're proportionate and very elegant. They're built to be efficient, not massive, right? They're built to survive and produce on what the land provides. One of their most striking features is their horns. They have upswept, lyre-shaped, white with black tip horns. They're graceful, symmetrical, and they frame the face like a sculpture. Though many modern farms dehorn cattle for safety, the traditional Kerry silhouette is unmistakable. And safety meaning a lot of times, sometimes, cows can get into fights over what space they want to be in, or sometimes, even on accident, they can just move their head too fast and sometimes hurt their people, even though they don't mean to. So, dehorning is something that a lot of farms will do for safety, but they don't have to, and their horns are just one of the breed's most striking features. Kerry cattle are agile and sure-footed. They move easily across rocky hills and uneven ground, just like the places they evolved in. They thrive on modest forage, where larger breeds might struggle. Also, their lighter weight causes less damage to wet winter pastures, an important trait in Ireland's rainy climate, right? Heavy hooves sink, but light steps do not. They're also very long-lived, often remaining productive into their teenage years. So what about their dairy production? Well, Kerry cows produce between 5,000 and 7,000 pounds of milk per lactation, with some even exceeding 10,000 pounds. Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's not a ton of production compared to commercial dairy breeds, but for a family, that's plenty. And while they don't rival industrial dairy breeds in sheer volume, they are highly efficient for their size. They convert grass into milk with remarkable effectiveness. Grass is enough if you know how to use it well. And if you use sustainable agriculture practices, Kerry's might be a really good option for you. Kerry milk contains smaller butterfat globules than many other dairy breeds, which can enhance digestibility for some consumers. It's especially valued for artisan dairy production, like cheese and yogurt and ice cream. Rich but refined, flavorful but balanced. It's really got some potential for high quality artisan dairy. Also, Kerry cows are known for strong maternal instincts and minimal calving difficulty. Maternal instincts mean how the cow protects her calf, okay? And Kerry cattle will protect their calves against absolutely anything that comes into their field, okay? They are very attentive mothers. They are very protective and very patient. Their calves are usually vigorous. They grow at ridiculously fast rates, and the survival rates are really high, which, honestly, a good mother is worth more than numbers. So, as a farm benefit, the reliability and greatly reduced veterinary intervention should make them a up-and-coming option for you. Now, what about conservation and breed identity? So today, the Kerry breed is considered globally rare. That means it's rare and hard to find all over the globe, okay, all over the world. Preservation efforts focus on maintaining genetic diversity and pure bloodlines. Rare breeds like the Kerry represent centuries of agricultural adaptation, traits that modern systems may one day desperately need. Okay? Preserving heritage livestock strengthens agricultural biodiversity, and that strengthens our food system. That's right. So, remember, once a bloodline is lost, it cannot be recreated. Now, North American breeders collaborate with Irish registries to maintain proper documentation and breed standards. Careful breeding protects not only appearance, but resilience, fertility, even milk quality. Conservation is not accidental, it requires intention. Someone has to choose to remember them. Kerry cattle are often confused with Dexter cattle due to historical registration in the same herd book. However, they are distinct breeds, and genetic studies confirm that. Okay? Kerrys are generally taller, more refined, and primarily dairy focused, while Dexters are smaller and more dual purpose. Okay, they can be used for dairy or meat. So they may look similar at a glance, but their stories are very different. So understanding those differences is essential for proper conservation. So why do Kerry cattle even matter today? Why do we even care? Well, it's a good question. So, in a world reconsidering sustainability, Kerry cattle offer powerful advantages. They're efficient on grass. They have a much lower environmental impact because they're small. They do significantly less pasture damage, and they have really long productive lifespans. They fit beautifully into regenerative small-scale systems. Sorry guys, my tongue keeps tying. They're ideal for heritage farms, niche dairy markets, things like that. Micro dairies, anything. They were sustainable before the word existed. Genetic diversity in livestock strengthens food systems against disease, climate shifts, and economic changes. Genetic diversity means a large amount of something, right? You don't have like 3 bloodlines, you might have 50 or 70, okay? And that's the important thing. And it strengthens our food system, which is like where our food comes from, against disease. So, illness, do they get sick? Do they get sick from this, that, or the other? Climate shifts. Is it going to warm up? Is it going to cool down? Well, having multiple genetics in there will help. And economic changes. What if you suddenly can't afford to feed the big breeds? Kerrys are really, really adaptable. So, rare breeds are reservoirs of resilience, okay? The the Kerry breed carries centuries of adaptation within their DNA, okay? And the future might need what the past perfected. This is the main key thing to why we keep them around and why we're so focused on keeping all of these ancient breeds around, because they existed for a reason. And even though we've adjusted since then, our world is changing and we need to preserve what we had, okay? So when we say the future may need what the past perfected, that is a key statement for any sort of breed preservation. So, what about the future of Kerry cattle? Well, the future of these guys depends on dedicated farmers, education, and consumer awareness just from people like you. Heritage breed movements are reviving interest in animals that balance productivity with sustainability. Okay, people are more concerned about, can this be a sustainable option, not just how much can I produce in a day. So, North American herds of Kerry cattle could potentially end up safeguarding the breed's survival, right? They could serve as vital genetic anchors in case of European population decline. They're small, but they're still here. So consider, these are just some questions that you might take and maybe do some research on, and figure out what you think. So, why might smaller, hardy dairy breeds be important today? Or why would they maybe be valuable today? Two is, how does conserving rare livestock protect our food security? What balance should agriculture strike between productivity and diversity? It's a good question. Also, what challenges do rare livestock breeds face? That's a really good question. Okay? So, something we want you to just keep in mind, and Keeley agrees, sometimes the strongest future begins with remembering the quiet breeds. Okay? So, the ones you don't hear about all the time. But do some research and look them up. And remember, come back every week because we'll have a new breed featured each week in our recordings, okay? All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.